Sometimes life's problems can be too much. When you need a helping hand or a friend to talk to, Serena is there whenever or wherever you need her. Follow the link in the description for your free trial.
Am I the asshole for asking my brother to accommodate my son at his child-free wedding and refusing to drop it? A few months ago, my older brother asked me to be his best man and my husband to be a groomsman. He and I have always been close and he was my best man at our, much smaller, ceremony. At the time I committed to this obligation, no real planning had taken place, so everyone was on standby waiting for further details and an official date. I'm not sure when they began properly planning things, but I didn't hear much more about it until November during our Thanksgiving family gathering. My brother's fiancée told us the venue, the date, and the fact that the wedding was going to be child-free. Now, I have no issue with the concept of child-free weddings. I had one myself. The problem is that my husband and I are expecting a baby. If all goes well with our surrogate's pregnancy, fingers crossed, our son will be 3 months old by the wedding date given. The venue they've chosen is 2.5 hours from where we live. We would likely be spending 3 days away from home. You can call me an overprotective first-time parent, but the thought of both my husband and I being away from our child for that long when he's so little scares me, and he's not even here yet. My in-laws could watch him and I trust them completely, but I know I wouldn't be able to properly enjoy the festivities if my infant is over 2 hours away from me. I pulled my brother aside later in the night and apologized profusely while explaining my worries. He said he understood and offered up a venue change, one much closer to home, or maybe making an exception for me by inviting my in-laws to the wedding. That way I could see the baby during the ceremony and feel a little less stressed. I told him either would work for me and thanked him. He spoke to his fiancée, but she won't budge on either issue. He's vented to me multiple times over the course of the month that has now passed about how he's really frustrated because what matters most to him is making sure he's surrounded by the people he loves and that they are comfortable. Meanwhile, his fiancée continually repeats that she's not giving up her dream venue and ceremony. I told him my husband and I could just attend as guests instead if it would make things easier, but he immediately shut me down and said he wanted us by his side. She texted me yesterday, politely, I'll admit, asking if I could please just drop things with my brother. I might have considered it previously, but hearing how she turned down all of my brother's requests for compromise made me put my foot down and refuse. I hate causing my brother trouble like this, especially so close to the holidays, but I feel like she's showing her true colors. Am I the asshole? ETA, if I was a guest, I would not have brought this up at all. Both my husband and I being in the wedding party is what complicates things. As I said, I'm all for child-free weddings. I don't understand. You're likely staying wherever this wedding is, right? Why can't you pay for your in-laws to stay at the same hotel or close by? I'm really unable to understand why you'd have a place to stay and in-laws don't. Why do they need to be invited to the wedding to be close by? You are the asshole for this weird drama that you're creating. You are the asshole. Have someone come along and watch the baby in your hotel or wherever you are staying. It's their big day and having them change the venue is an unreasonable ask. The bride, by your own admission, is being polite about it. Don't be an ass. Am I the asshole for telling my friend's mom she chose to have a child at 45? Background. My best friend and I have been best friends since we were 12. We are now 24. Her mom had her at 45. Now, before everyone tells me that's not possible, it is absolutely possible for some women. I'm not a fucking scientist, but my friend is proof that it can happen. So I don't want to hear it. I also want to be clear, there is nothing wrong with having a child in your 40 feet s. I don't give a shit if you choose to have a child in your 40 feet s. This post isn't about bashing moms in their 40s. Basically, I'm married, we are financially stable, and we decided to have a baby. I got pregnant, and my best friend was overjoyed for us. She loves kids but has been really clear that right now she is enjoying being young and doesn't want to settle down. She doesn't see herself having children until her mid-30s. Of course, this is absolutely fine. No judgment. During my baby shower, my best friend's mom kept pouting. She kept going on and on about how she is going to be extremely old by the time her daughter has children and she won't be able to enjoy them. How she just wishes my friend would get pregnant and settle down now. How it's not fair to her that she won't be able to be a grandma. I mean, ranting to anyone who would listen. My friend looked really sad. I could tell she was upset. Everyone just looked uncomfortable as she was going on. After the party, when everyone left, I talked to my friend about what happened. She admitted to me that her mom has been really hard on her about settling down because of her age. But that she's just not ready to, and she needs her to understand that. Flash forward to them meeting my baby recently. My best friend's mom launches in again. I just said to her, "But Christina, you made the choice to have a baby at 45. You had to know there was a chance you might be pretty old by the time you became a grandparent. It's not fair to try and push Allison into a life she isn't ready for because you want to be a grandparent." She got up and left. But my friend thanked me later. Am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Sounds like those were the exact words she needed to hear. Not the asshole. She needed to hear that. She may also be worried her daughter will make the same miscalculation she did by having a baby late in life. But again, she shouldn't be disturbing everyone and needs to take no for an answer. Not the asshole. Good for you for standing up for your friend. Christina needs to realize that Allison will plan her family arrangements around her own needs, not her mother's, and it was probably helpful for both of them to hear it from you. Well done. I had my second baby at 41. I fully understood I would always be the older mother with him. But it's also pushed me to take care of my health and be active so I will be able to enjoy fresh grandchildren in my 70s. I know many active 80-year-olds. You are not the asshole. Unexpected, not the asshole at all. Like, damn, true. Am I the asshole for wanting to bring my cat back into my house after wife's late stillbirth? My wife and I were expecting a child in October. We are in our early 30s and have been trying for a child for some time due to character limits. I won't get into details, but it has been difficult. In February, we discovered that she was pregnant. Obviously, we were over the moon with joy. We began to prepare. We did everything you could possibly do to get ready. We planned a baby shower and sent out invitations. We prepared a beautiful room with a custom-made crib by my father-in-law, who is a very talented woodworker, and we were extremely thorough in baby-proofing our home. During the baby-proofing, my wife started to suggest that we get rid of my cat, Bubba, who is 12 years old and I've had since he was a kitten. I got him in college, I adopted him, and each of my two sisters adopted another kitten from the same litter. Bubba is extremely affectionate to me, so sweet and cuddly. He tolerates my wife, but is not affectionate towards her. To strangers, he is not nice. He has never bitten or scratched anyone, but he does a lot of hissing and yowling at people he is unfamiliar with. My wife was afraid that he'd scare the baby, he wouldn't be welcoming to a newborn, or that he'd hurt her. I argued gently, but eventually acquiesced. In her 28th week of pregnancy, we sent him to live with my parents. He was not happy there. My parents said he cried all day and walked around meowing 24 hours a day, looking for me. Tragically, my wife and I lost our child just weeks before she was due. We still don't have a lot of answers, and it's painful to get into. We mourned. We were inconsolable for weeks. I still cannot think about it without feeling complete agony and loss. After a month, we returned to some level of normalcy, as normal as things could be, anyway. We've started to explore adoption. Last week, I told my wife I was going to pick up Bubba to bring him back home. She exploded. She said that under no circumstances would she allow him back in our house, and that I had agreed to have him live with my parents. I missed him. He's been my best friend for years, he's been my loyal companion my entire adult life. She told me that I could pretty much choose between her or Bubba. I told her that obviously I would choose her, it's not even a question, but that I didn't understand her reasoning and I felt she was being cruel. She'd lived with Bubba for 10 years, and there had never been any problem. The adoption process can take 8 to 12 months on average, and I'd like to spend that time having Bubba around. We haven't spoken about it since. This is the first fight we've had. Am I being unreasonable, the asshole, in wanting my cat back? To be honest, I'd choose my cat. She knows what he means to you, and seems like a monster for wanting him gone for a baby, especially with there being no issues. Not the asshole. You should never have to get rid of Bubba. I'm sure to you Bubba is also an important part of the family. Cats hissing is not a sign of violence but a sign of fear. My sister who recently had a baby has a cat who also hisses at strangers but is cuddly with his owners. Honestly, he can't even tell that her baby is a human at all and only ever sniffs her or avoids her. On top of that, a child will not be afraid of a cat unless they are raised to be or are horribly hurt. A tiny scratch will not traumatize a baby. Not the asshole. And you shouldn't had get rid of the cat in the first place. Am I the asshole for uninviting my soon-to-be MIL from my wedding? I, F27, am engaged to my fiancé, M45, and we plan to get married in July. I have 2 kids with my late husband. My soon-to-be MIL, who I will refer to as MIL, does not know this full context as I am a private person and am not overly close with her. He passed when I was 23 and I really only discuss his passing once I am incredibly close with someone. I have only spoken to MIL at a handful of holidays and never had a conversation that extended far beyond the basics. Now to get into this, we recently hosted our first Thanksgiving. I felt very accomplished and was excited to share this moment with my soon-to-be family. The only issue being that I had totally forgotten the mashed potatoes, which seemed to have MIL in a very pissy mood. Thankfully, fiancé's sister offered to go to the store to buy some instant mashed potatoes, to which I was very grateful. She asked me to check in on her youngest daughter, who was in an upstairs bedroom with my kids and had been very quiet recently. Moms of Reddit know this is never a good thing. I, of course, agree. I go to check on them and find them fully engrossed in Encanto. Left sitting at the table downstairs were my soon-to-be MIL, Phil, Bill, fiancé, and most importantly, SIL's oldest daughter, F15. As I make my way downstairs I do note the silence at the table but don't think much of it. After the dinner, however, while everyone is leaving, SIL's oldest daughter pulls me aside and asks to speak to me. I ask her if everything is okay and she explains that while I was gone MIL made a comment something to the note of how she didn't get why fiancé would get with someone who is already used up, and that running around with someone like that would ruin his reputation among men, along with another comment that she said she wasn't comfortable repeating. She said she wouldn't have felt right if she hadn't told me. I thanked her profusely, honestly completely in shock at what I had just heard. MIL had already left at this point. I am a very confrontational person because I believe it gets drama over with. I called her and asked her if it was true and she got really quiet before admitting that it was. She said something along the lines of, "I am glad you know how everyone feels now. I was getting tired of hiding it." When I started to cry she replied, and this is a direct quote, "You act like a slut, you get treated like one." In a moment of anger I uninvited her from my wedding. My fiancé is very upset and is threatening to leave if I don't fix this all now. He and our friends are all calling me the a-hole, and many have been ostracizing me. I am open to criticism but I really don't think I did anything wrong. So, am I the asshole for uninviting my soon-to-be MIL from my wedding? Your MIL called you a slut on Thanksgiving and your fiancé wants you to apologize? You have a fiancé problem. This relationship is already over. Figure out how to protect yourself and get out. I would uninvite myself from the wedding. That sounds like a horrible situation. I'm so sorry, disappointed. I don't understand how your fiancé thinks you're the asshole. If he doesn't have your back now, he never will. I'm so sorry, op. Not the asshole. Not the asshole, and you have a fiancé problem. He should have stood up for you. Hell, the only person there with the integrity to stand up for you at all was a 15-year-old. Think about how this woman is going to treat your children. They deserve better. You deserve better.